This episode of the Parity Podcast was brought to you by none other than dailypuzzles.com.au. If you're looking for high quality, reliable speed cubes with reliable shipping, then check them out. We have a discount code that you can use today for 10% off your entire order if you use code PARITY, PARITY, for 10% off your entire order at dailypuzzles.com.au. Let's get in the show.
Yo, it's Cupid here. Hi, my name is Jack Kai.
Hi, my name's Kieran Behan.
Hi, I'm Kevin Lee from Cubing Coded, and you're listening to the Parity Podcast.
Parity Podcast.
Parity Podcast.
You're listening to the Parity Podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Mitch Creighton and Jan McGinley. Hello, and welcome to everyone listening to this month's episode of the Parity Podcast, and what is probably our biggest podcast yet. Welcome to everyone, wherever you're listening, whether it be on Spotify. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Or if you're listening from Apple Music, then make sure you go down and leave us a review. It really helps out with the show and helps us grow as well. As we said last month, we're starting a new thing where we read out the reviews from the show. I don't know, thought it might be cool, a bit controversial possibly. So this month we had one new review from... It looks like it's just letters spammed into a keyboard. EHHSVSJ. Never mind. And it was labeled Good Podcast. And they wrote, Dude, this is supposed to be a monthly podcast, yet there hasn't been an episode since February. Thanks for the great review. Really appreciate it. Yes, I know it's a monthly podcast. I mean, as we said in that episode during June, we were just like so busy with school and stuff, but we're back on track now. We promise every single month for the rest of the year we will have an episode for you. So there you go. Plus,
yeah, and just for a bit of context, if you guys don't understand what we actually did, we had this long school camp. So basically, every year there's a tradition at our school where our year goes on this long camp away, isolated, without, like, we're not allowed any electronics or anything. And basically, so Mitch went on the previous one, and then I went on the one after him, because we were in different groups. So basically, Mitch was away for like a couple weeks.
2 weeks.
And then as soon as Mitch came back, I actually went on the camp for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So we didn't actually see each other for like more than a month.
Yeah.
And then we went on holidays. So like we haven't been together in like over like 3 months until we actually could make that podcast. So
yeah, but it wasn't
was
just that.
actually
It was
really
also
challenging.
after we got back from the camp, we also had to work back on school. But anyway, that's behind us. We are back to normal episodes now anyway. For what is the biggest episode of the podcast? Yes, that's right. You guys know what it is. In this episode, we will be interviewing the king of speedcubing, Feliks Zemdegs himself. It was a really great interview. Really enjoyed it. And yeah, it's pretty good. Anyway, let's just get straight into the new cubes of the month. There's only two. We'll keep it nice and short. The Moyu Weilong Ai 3x3 and the Moyu Weilong WRM 2021 Lite. Okay, so let's take a look at the WRM 2021 Lite first. So this is basically just a WRM 2021, except it doesn't come with all the accessories that come with the 2021. Just like the regular one. So they're literally the exact same cube. This is quite a good move. The cube is not changed whatsoever, as I understand it. I think this is a pretty good move. I mean, it's great to get the same cube, just even cheaper. I think this was a pretty good move by Moyu. Some great initiative. Jan, what are your thoughts?
I don't know much to say. I mean, great to see cubes getting cheaper and better. Like, if people can eliminate the cost and sort of like get the same sort of performance out of the same cube with much lower cost, then that's really the goal, I think. So
Yeah,
I think they're doing a good job. They're making it a lot more affordable, and that's a really good thing.
exactly. And then the Moyu Weilong Ai 3x3, the very highly anticipated Moyu Smart Cube. It's currently on pre-order on dailypuzzles.com.au, but is expected to be delivered to Daily Puzzles HQ around about the 10th to the 15th of August. So this cube is just your run-of-the-mill AI cube, I guess. They're becoming more increasingly popular on the market. So it connects to an app and it can track all of your moves and everything. TPS, fluency, it can track stages of your solves. Yeah, I haven't really got much to say. I personally am a big fan of Moyu Cube, so I'm really happy this one comes out. I guess for anyone who's wanting to buy a new cube, smart cube, then I guess this is just another option to go in line with the GAN, Rubik's, GoCube, I think there is as well. All those ones, if you prefer Moyu over any other one. Jan, have you got anything else to add on to that?
Not really, nah. I think you've summed it up really well.
Yeah, cool. And as always, if you guys have any sort of questions or anything, just give us a DM on Instagram and we'll do our very best to help you out, because obviously we know a little bit about cubing, you know. Anyway, I don't think we'll hold you up there. We're going to take a quick break, and then on the other side, we will be interviewing the king of cubing, the greatest cuber to ever live so far, Feliks Zemdegs.
This episode of the Parity Podcast was sponsored by none other than Blake Coburn, Jason Rosentretter, Cubing Madness on YouTube, and Harry Daniels. If you'd like your own Patreon shoutout, go check out our Patreon. It's in the show notes. We got a link on our Instagram. It's basically a link tree so you can click on, and then it's really easy. It's $1 a month, and you get your shout out in every episode. So why not give it a shot? And yeah, I mean,
exactly. It could be a great gift if you got a friend who's a big fan. Then surprise.
Yeah, and even if you wanna just promote your YouTube channel, give a little shout out. I mean, it won't hurt. And that will really support us. So we really appreciate you guys for supporting us. Thank you.
Exactly. It really helps the show keep going. Welcome back, and as I said before, joining us here today for a very exciting video is the king of cubing himself, Feliks Zemdegs. Feliks, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much
No
for
problem.
having me, guys.
It's an honor.
Yeah. How's it going?
Okay, so the first...
Yeah, wow.
that's fine.
Thank you.
So I guess the first question that just has to be asked is, how did you actually get into cubing?
Sure. My story of how I started is not particularly interesting. It was basically when I was 12 years old, I was watching YouTube and came across videos of people solving and thought it looked interesting and decided to buy a cube and learn how to solve it. I learned from the PogoBat Dan Brown tutorial, and I don't know, I think I just got on a bit of a streak of just watching various cubing videos and thought it was something I wanted to have a go at, and then got quite addicted. So yeah, not a particularly exciting story, but I think it might be the most common one. Is just people see it online these days. Yeah.
Yeah, well, wow. Yeah, I mean, YouTube only came out like in 2005-ish around. But imagine if like you grew up in a time where like YouTube wasn't around. You might not have been like one of the greatest cubers. Like, oh my gosh, that would have changed everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a big part of the growth of cubing is due to not only YouTube, but like just the growth of the internet. Like,
yeah, definitely.
You know, before the internet was around, the only way you'd be able to communicate with other cubers is if you had like some kind of local group. You would have had no idea. And so I think when the internet started and when various online cubing groups kind of were created and people actually realized that, there were other people around the world that did it, that was really, I guess, what started modern speed cubing.
And imagine trying to
I mean, even in the early days, like it's still kind of a bit hard to find, I think the earliest groups were like groups on Yahoo, which is a very outdated website these days, but it still would have been hard to find. And it was only, when you kind of had the birth of kind of social media and YouTube and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
that I think
It's
it really,
quite-
really took off.
The internet's such a great thing that it's been able to help things like this, like cubing, and I mean, there's so many other like different small sort of sports or hobbies or anything that really would not be a thing if it weren't for the internet. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, it's
Absolutely.
like the biggest. It's the
Second
biggest
to the wheel, I
invention in
reckon.
the history of humankind, I reckon. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, well, obviously with the online, I mean, how hard would have been so hard to learn like new algorithms and like to get like really advanced at 3x3 back then without like internet, because the internet posts everything and there's so many like resources now to like find new methods and new strategies to solve faster. And
Yeah. So
yeah. And
I agree.
to carry on to that, after getting to cubing, you started advancing like quite quickly and were really fast to break like sort of records. Even in your first competition, that was like ridiculous. Like the fact that was your first competition. I mean, your performance was great. So how did you improve so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, well, part of it is just the context at the time, which was, when I went to my first competition, there weren't any Australians at all I think there were like 10 or 15 Australians that had ever competed, as opposed to now, I don't know how many thousand Australians would have competed. And so when you only have a smaller pool of competitors, it becomes a bit easier to break records. And I guess just in general, like the cubing community was so much smaller and less competitive. So it was it wasn't easy, but it was much easier than today to break a national record or a continental record or something like that if you put in the time. And also because cubing was just so much younger as well, like it just was much less developed in terms of the methods and techniques and cubing hardware that people used. It was very, very, very different to what we have now. And so, part of that, it was a bit easier back then, to be completely honest. And then in terms of, I don't know, my improvement and advancement, I think I was just super, super addicted to cubing. Like I would just practice and improve, and that would motivate me to practice more. And, I'd try and break certain barriers and was able to do so pretty quickly. And, within the span of, I don't know, a year and a half or so, I was kind of getting times which were kind of close to the best in the world back then. So it was just kind of this reinforcing like, motivation cycle of just practice improvement. Like I didn't learn anything, like there wasn't too much that was actually advanced back then. It was just mostly CFOP. And then the one thing that I didn't invent it, but like maybe popularized it to an extent, was being color neutral. Like back when I started, there were very, very few people who were color neutral. Like pretty much everyone used white cross or white and yellow or just single color cross. And it was kind of myself and Ro Hessler who were the people who used color neutrality and kind of were, I guess, at a time, kind of number 1 and 2 in the world, I believe. And so that was one thing that I did differently. But it wasn't groundbreaking, I would say.
Yeah, well, I mean, you definitely started like a really big like sort of movement. I can definitely say you're responsible for thousands of cubers in Australia now. I mean, before you came, like cubing, there wasn't even like a cubing comp in Australia, I believe.
No, there wasn't. And I mean, it's not directly me at all. It's everyone who was around back then and what we started with the competitions and just the natural growth and increasing popularity of cubing. But it is always kind of cool and nice to hear that the kids saw me on YouTube or Netflix or whatever, and they got into cubing because of that. And so
yeah, well, I mean,
nice.
That's just incredible. And I mean, I don't know, you must be sort of proud to think that like you as a young kid, you'd probably want there to be lots of comps in Australia and stuff, and being one of the biggest countries for speedcubing. I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely. Like, kind of the world, like for us, to have the world championships here. Thank goodness we were able to have it before COVID. For us to have that, I don't know, 10 years after our first competition and have whatever it was, almost 1,000 people from around the world come to Melbourne was was very, very cool. Like if you had told me that when I was, starting cubing and just going to meetups in a food court with 3 or 4 other people, that would be the end product of all this, that would be absolutely insane. Like I would not have believed you at all. It would just be crazy. So the growth of cubing, the growth of Australian cubing has been really fun to watch. And I mean, I can't take any any credit at all for the hard work and organisation that goes into running and hosting all these competitions. And so there's so many people that spend a lot of time doing that, and so that's needed as well. But yeah, I think we're in a great spot. And I mean, it's unfortunate that we've had this kind of year. Or I mean, Perth has had competitions like normal, but the rest of us have kind of had a bit of a break. But my sense is that when things hopefully get a bit closer to normal, like it will just become even more and more popular. Like I think you've seen some of the state championships which got cancelled recently. Like the registrations for those were just
very cool.
Insane.
So tell us everything about the documentary, the idea of it, the planning, filming, everything. Yeah.
The Netflix documentary. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, it was definitely not my idea at all. There's actually there's a YouTube channel called the Speedcubers, and if anyone wants to watch all of those videos on that channel, I think there's about 4 or 5. Basically, there are various interviews with the director Sue Kim and other people, and I mean, she will have so much more backstory than me, but I guess the idea was her. So Sue is a cubing mom. So she is the mum of Asher Kim from they live in Portland, and he's quite fast. But she had been going with him to various Rubik's Cube competitions, and she was I don't know, she wasn't a director beforehand. I think she worked in like film and advertising, or advertising media. But she'd always wanted to make documentaries or something like that. And so her idea was, all right, like cubing is pretty cool and interesting. No one's really made a documentary about speed cubing itself. I mean, there's been various videos here and there and YouTube stuff, but nothing
mainstream,
really, I don't know what you call it, like mainstream maybe. And so, so her idea was to make a story about speed cubing and about the world championships. And then I guess, I don't know exactly kind of how she got to this point, but I think I think I met her, or I don't know if I exactly met her, but I think I met her at the 2018 US Nationals. And I think what she wanted to do after watching the 2018 Nationals was, because me and Max were kind of the top 2 at that time, kind of the clear number 1 and 2 in various different events. Her idea was, all right, like, can we follow and document Feliks and Max in the lead up to the World Championships and then at the World Championships, and I guess document, not only us individually, but also also kind of the relationship that we have as competitors. And so I think she reached out, it would have been late 2018 maybe, reached out to me and to Max's parents with the idea, and kind of said, all right, well, I really want to make this documentary. My plan is to pitch it to Netflix. And I was like, cool, like I'm happy to do it, but like good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. I had no idea of her background or anything like that. So I thought it was a bit optimistic, but then she kind of just came back in a couple of months and said, yeah, Netflix they want to fund the documentary. And so
wow,
that was pretty cool. So
wow.
And I mean, even back then, like Netflix was nowhere near as big as it was today. Like the amount that Netflix has grown over the last 3 years has been pretty massive as well. Like it was still pretty big, but like it was still growing. And so so that was kind of settled. And then the plan was, she was going to film. I mean, she worked with Chris Olsen as well. So she hired Chris as one of the directors of photography, and used a lot of Chris's footage that he had as well, which was just like historic footage, which was good. But they kind of had to come to Sydney for about a week. So they filmed the Sydney competition, the warm-up Sydney competition. They filmed me kind of, I don't know, doing random things for a few days as well. We didn't really have much. Like I kind of said, I really don't have too much time to like that was one of the things I said. Like, I'm probably not going to have too much time to go around filming stuff all day for a week or whatever. So they kind of had to work with what I gave them. They filmed obviously Max a bunch in California. Mm-hmm. They filmed Max, going to a number of different competitions in America because they live pretty close. I mean, the filming itself, they weren't too like intrusive or invasive at all. It was all very natural. Like I had to wear a microphone all the time, like the entire Sydney competition, the entire Melbourne competition. But it wasn't like they were, just following me everywhere. It was, they'd be in the crowds or they'd be kind of off to the side, just making shots. And so it was, I don't know, it was kind of weird, but I didn't have to, it didn't stress me out or worry me too much. I kind of just got on with the job. And they did interviews, obviously a bunch of different interviews, kind of every day, but not for too long. So I kind of, we did all that, we had the competitions, had the world championships and that was kind of it at the end of July 2019. I was like, well, all right, that's all done. I'm looking forward to seeing how it turns out. So then I think it took about 6 or 7 months for them to get to a rough kind of first edit of the documentary, and and Sue sent it across. And I think what she originally wanted to do was to make it at least 1 hour. And that was, I think so I have like a 90-minute version that I think she sent first, which was, which I like watched immediately and absolutely loved. And then kind of the discussions with Netflix were that Netflix loved it, but I think they wanted to cut it down to under 40 minutes for, I think, a number of different reasons. Number one was there's like, for various film awards, there's like a documentary short category. And I think the general cutoff is like 40, 45 minutes. And so that was one of the things they said. And then also like, I don't know, I think they just kind of think that people don't have much of an attention span, particularly for a topic that they aren't interested in. And so if you can kind of compress and get the best bits into 40 minutes, it probably is more powerful. And actually, I would agree. Like the versions I've watched, the actual one and the 90-minute one, the one that was finally released was, in my opinion, a lot better. But I'm sure there's people who would love to watch the 90-minute one, but I don't think that can ever be posted anywhere, unfortunately. So they sent that across start of 2020. I watched it, loved it, kind of just said keep me posted, and then it eventually got released, and I think they did a great job. They edited it all very, very nicely.
It turned out really, really well.
They made it great.
So what was it like after the documentary came out? I mean, I reckon it was probably about a month or maybe 2 months that the excitement really started to build up. And then about a week before it came out, everyone was just like so excited. And then what was it like after it came out? What was the response from the public? Did you get like any messages or anything talking about it or anything like that?
It was pretty crazy. So before it came out, I mean, probably the only people who were really knew about it and were really excited about it was the cubing community, which was big, but it's like it's not crazy big. And I think Netflix posted the trailer onto their YouTube channel as well, like, a month before it got released, and that was all very exciting. But I think kind of still at that stage, like, unless you're someone who watches all the Netflix trailers or you're a cuber, like, no one would have really known about it. And so it was really exciting. The first couple of days were when basically the entire cubing community watched it, and there was that initial reaction, first few days, first week or so, and that was, that was great. Like, clearly, like my, all the messages and whatnot, everyone loved it. And then I think I don't know if it was within the first week or kind of a couple weeks after, it started to really pick up just around the world in terms of just non-cubing audience. And I think that was definitely the aim for the documentary, is that, you know, it should be the audience should be kind of anyone. It shouldn't necessarily be tailored to cubers or people who know me and Max or people who are interested in like competitive sports. I think the goal was that it should be something that anyone can watch and enjoy. And so I would say, 2 to 3 weeks after it was released was when things really started to pick up. I would kind of, I'd search it on Twitter every day and look at all the responses, and I don't know, just it was a very busy, crazy time, and get a lot of messages from, I don't know, all sorts of different people on Twitter or Instagram or everywhere, basically. So I didn't quite get back to everyone or as much as I'd like to, but I definitely spent, a good couple of months just trying to reply to as many messages and people as I possibly could, and really just kind of, soak it in, because this is not something that was ever going to happen again. And so Netflix, they don't give you can't see how many people have watched a particular Netflix series or show. I think you kind of see it sometimes. They'll put out media releases on stuff that's really, really popular, and they'll say, this series did this many million people within the first week. They did tell us, they give like a first month and then a first 3 months. I can't remember the exact number, but it was,
wow.
I think the first month was something like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 million viewers, maybe, which I had no context of, I didn't have too much context of whether that was a high number for them or whatever, but I think the impression I got when we were talking with them, they were really, really pleased and surprised that it had done that well. It clearly
absolutely it turned out so well, and I definitely think it's something that you should definitely be proud of and very happy about, because it was a really, really great thing.
Well, I kind of always say I didn't do any of the editing or filming or anything like that, so it's all them. But yeah.
Can I just add a bunch of stuff? I haven't really said much. No
worries.
No, that's honestly incredible. I remember going on Netflix, and when I wanted to watch the documentary, it came out because I set a reminder on Netflix for it, and after a couple days of it being released, it was #1 in Australia. That was it was incredible to see.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and it was nice. The timing was good too, because pretty much the entire world was in lockdown, and so if it was any other time, maybe it wouldn't have been quite as viewed. If people had other things to do.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Netflix was very smart on deciding to go ahead, because honestly, if you look at Chris Olsen's Why We Cube documentary, you could see that there was obviously a really good sort of documentary that could be made for cubing, and the documentary really brought a lot of eyes and attention to cubing as a speed cubing sort of thing, because most people were aware of the Rubik's Cube as a puzzle thing that they could try and crack the cube, but they didn't really understand how the competitions work, and this documentary really probably brought new cubers into the cubing scene, and people probably got more inspired to cube, and honestly.
Yeah, that's what I think and hope as well. And it's unfortunate that, there's not been many competitions since it was released a year ago, but my strongest suspicion is that it has really also just continued to accelerate the growth of speed cubing in general. And everything that you're seeing now with all these new competitions is that they just fill up so quickly in terms of registration, which is good and bad. The Chris Olsen Why We Cube as well. I think the important thing for something like that, which for it to reach a broader audience, it needs to be focused on people. so the Chris Olsen's Why We Cube is really, really, really good because it's following, 4 different individuals and kind of their stories. It's not just, here's a competition and here's someone who came first, second, third. Like, that's not particularly compelling. Although, I mean, I am watching the Olympics now and I kind of love that as well. But it's more about the story.
Yeah, well, I mean, even when I went there, I could basically see the whole behind the scenes of the competition because I saw all the cameramen and all the filmmaking crews and stuff. It was really serious. Like it was a proper it was done really well. And I think that's probably partially due to Chris Olsen because he's a cuber himself. As who better to have for director of photography, and obviously my friend who's friends with Ben Blenner Hassett, I think he's also a director of photography or something. But yeah, wow. Honestly, Chris Olsen is probably the perfect person for this sort of project. Oh,
absolutely. I think he was super, super valuable for their team. And it's been quite cool to see him grow up. Develop over the years. He started his YouTube channel and it became the YouTube, a really popular YouTube cuber, and then kind of continued to develop in terms of his all of his photography and filming. And I think this was to say, I don't know how old he is, 21 or 22 or 23 now.
Only 22?
I would say he's 23, 24. I can't remember exactly. Actually, I think he's my age. I reckon he's 24. But to be able to say that you've been director of a Netflix documentary at that age is
oh yeah.
He should be super proud.
And to think he started just with solving a 2x2, and now he's a director of a Netflix documentary that was Oscar nominated. That's inspiring, incredible. And now he's got such a good resume for filmmaking. Obviously, he's stepped away from more cubing and he's focused more on his filmmaking career at the moment. But wow, he's really he's got a good oh my gosh, cubing has really given him a platform to sort of as a filmmaker.
Yeah, no, he's very talented, and I mean in general, cubing is really good for that. Not only someone like Chris, but I think lots of different people kind of. I don't know, use cubing or have cubing really, really help them with non-cubing things. I think it does a lot of good things.
That's fine.
Yeah. So I guess we'll move on then. Is that okay, Mitch, or do you want to say anything? Okay. Sure. So what does preparation look like for a normal competition for you? How do you prepare going into it?
It depends. It depends which. It depends what competition it is, what time it is. It has looked very, very different over history, and so, if it's. I wouldn't say I have a standard kind of pre-competition practice schedule or routine or anything like that. If I'm going, so there were times where I was really, really focused on cubing and was going to, say, Latin America to do 7 or 8 competitions, or to the West Coast cubing tour to do 5 or 6 competitions. And so for something like that, obviously I would practice or would kind of set my sights on that and practice for at least a couple of months, and really, really focus on, what I want to do in those competitions and what I want to learn before them and have implemented in my solves. But if it's just, a local Melbourne competition with not many events, and I'm busy, I was busy with exams or something like that, it would not be, it wouldn't be particularly, focused or dedicated. But it really, really depends on what the actual event was, I would say.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm wrong. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the last recent years, you've been getting more records, less mainstream competitions. Am I right? Or
sorry, say that again. I think you cut out for a sec.
So you've been getting a lot of records and sort of PBs and Australian records at local, just everyday competitions, not proper big competitions.
I mean, these days I get less records in general, but I would say, I've not been to a major competition since Worlds 2019, and so I've not left Australia since 2019, and so.
Would you be more relaxed or like at a normal competition than at a mainstream sort of? Is there any pressure?
To be honest, it can be extremely random. Is what I've kind of felt over the years. Like sometimes it'll be a massive competition, but I'll just be so focused and so prepared that that really overwhelms any kind of nerves. On the other side, it can be like a local competition where I'm very relaxed, and then I just get up there to solve and just like can't turn. Obviously the big competitions, and I mean especially finals. Although even finals, like I wouldn't say I have done particularly badly in big finals.
No, definitely
really. It's super random. Is what I would say in terms of pressure for me. And I can't really pinpoint it. I think for me, it's just as long as I'm prepared enough before the competition, have some kind of routine during my round. I'm not distracted or worried about anything. Like that's kind of all I try to do, and see what happens in terms of the outcome.
Yeah, and obviously distractions would be quite a big role in terms for someone for like you, because I mean, I don't know. Do you ever get like really badly like distracted at a competition because of the kids?
Yeah. But I'm pretty used to it. Just like
that comes with being one of the greatest of all time, obviously.
Just like kids would just like say stuff before my solves or during inspection or whatever.
Do you ever have kids? Like get really excited when your cup gets cooled down and they're judging you or something?
Then, probably deal with any pressure. So.
That's so funny. So how did the sponsorship from GAN come about? GAN is probably one of the most involved companies with the people they sponsor. So what does this involve doing?
It kind of has varied over the years. So that came about in 2015. So I think early 2015 when I started using the GAN Cube, and I used it at 2015 Worlds. And so it was later on, and it was kind of my main for a good 6-7 months. And later on in that year, GAN invited me to come to a competition in China. And so I was like, that sounds great. If you're paying for my flights and the hotel and whatnot, and I get to come meet you guys, that'd be fantastic. But at that point, I was not sponsored by GAN at all. I just used their cubes, and so after that competition, and after I kept using, I continued to use their cubes, and I met them in GAN and his wife Amanda, and at that time, literally, they had like 3 employees, and it was kind of this little workshop in an apartment, and all of the kind of like manufacturing, like the plastic manufacturing, and all of that was outsourced to other factories. And so it was just them in the little studio, and it was a very, very small operation. And so I spent, I think, a good week with them, some kind of touristy stuff, the competition as well, which went for 3 days, and really got to know them really well. And I'd kind of dealt with, various people in sponsorship land before then, but I think at that point I was kind of 18, 19, ready to, wanted to make my own decisions. And so, could not say nicer things about GAN and what they do and what they're trying to do. And so when they kind of wanted to sponsor me after that, I was more than happy to. But before that point, I don't think anyone had ever really been sponsored to the point that they were kind of forced to use a particular main cube. Like even before then, for the first half of my cubing, or at least more than half of my cubing, like I could use whatever cube I want in whatever event I want. And that was important when cubes were just new cubes were being released, and they were just so much better all the time. Like, Diane would release a new cube, Moya would release a new cube, Gan would release a cube, and each time someone released a new cube, it would just be better than anything else in the market. And so it was kind of, if you'd lock yourself in with a sponsorship with Diane for 2 years, like you'd probably be looking pretty silly by the time it was 2015. So that was one of the hesitations. I didn't want to do anything like that before then. It's just that cubing hardware was developing so quickly. But from everything that I could tell about GAN, like, I had pretty strong faith and conviction in them that they would be able to continue to develop. I mean, still in 2015, like, no one used their cubes. Like, I was the only person using their cubes, to be honest. So that was how the sponsorship came about. In terms of what I've done over the years, it's been quite varied and also dependent on my schedule. Like, I've been there 3 or 4 times. Or I've met them 4 times. I think I've been to their factory 3 times, and each time it's just gotten bigger. Like, the last time I went was oh my god, it was nearly 3 years ago now.
Wow.
Which is, I'm sure it's just changed so much since then. But now they have just like this massive office, two giant factories, like hundreds of people working for them. And so to see that develop over the years has been pretty cool as well. So yeah, also very lucky in that respect that I chose someone to work with like Gan. And what I've had to do, I don't know. It's like various marketing stuff. Use their cubes, obviously, represent them at competitions and represent them as much as possible. And then it's varied at times, but sometimes I've helped them or kind of give feedback on the products, or I don't know, help with kind of English translations, that kind of thing, bits and pieces. But it's really
that's great to hear.
Changed and varied.
I think you made a good decision in going with them.
Not done a whole lot with them, but they kind of they're very understanding. I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're very close with like Phil Yu and the Cubicle. Have you ever been sponsored or done stuff with them as well, or do you stick to like GAN? Because I noticed you don't wear the Cubicle jacket, so.
No, I've never been sponsored by the Cubicle. I was sponsored by speedcube.com.au for a year, I think. Maybe a bit. Yeah, I think about a year. But I think GAN has always wanted me to, and this is like part of the sponsorship is that it would be only a GAN sponsorship. And nobody else. Like, even though Cubicle isn't a competitor to GAN, I think kind of the image of me only being sponsored by GAN is kind of what they wanted. So I'm more than happy to oblige.
I mean, Gan's done a really good job at staying at the top of like speedcubing hardware and stuff. I mean, the innovation that's gone into the cubes, it's ridiculous.
Even with
I mean, these days you can argue it's kind of more marginal, but the Bluetooth stuff that they've been doing lately is also pretty cool. But I talked to Phil a decent amount, ask him stuff here and there. I'm sure I've like unofficially done stuff with the Cubicle here and there. I visited the Cubicle offices once as well, but no, never been sponsored by them. But I mean, they do a great job as well. I was sponsored by Speedcube Shop actually in 2014 as well.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah,
but I think in the early days, people didn't have manufacturer sponsorships just because of that hardware thing. Like the hardware was just developing so quickly that if you did that and you picked an incorrect manufacturer, like you could be a bit screwed. And so it was important to, like, by the time it was 2015, 2016, a lot of the cubes, like the Moyu, the Chi, the Gan or whatever, like they were just kind of different. And it came down to personal preference, is what I would say. And they were good enough that really you could kind of use anything.
And I mean, before you started using GAN, I had no idea who GAN was or what their cubes were. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you would be partially responsible for a lot of like people knowing what GAN is now, and obviously their growth. I mean, seriously, I mean, you're the face of GAN in my opinion. Like, obviously they're sponsored by a lot of other GAN cubers like Leo, Borromeo, etc. But
Leo's no longer sponsored by GAN.
he's not.
He's sponsored by Rubik's, but
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, no, everyone's sponsored by Rubik's these days, which is cool. It's good to see Rubik's getting involved.
By GAN.
But I don't know who introduced me to their cubes. I think it was from memory. I think GAN went to the UK. So GAN's wife studied in the UK, and I think they visited some competitions. It would have been, I don't know, 2014 or 2015. And I'm friends with a bunch of cubers from there. And one of the cubers who went to those competitions was Cornelius Diekman. And I saw him using the GAN cubes and getting some good times. And I was chatting with him, and he's like, "These cubes are amazing. Like, you need to get one." And so I think that's what prompted me to email GAN, being like, "Can you send me the cubes? Like, I've heard they're really good." But before then,
Wow! If that happened today,
but it was a
hit the
competition
jackpot. That would be incredible.
Where they were
just handing out GAN cubes at a competition
to try them. That is how I first heard about them.
It'd be like. Yeah, it'd be like when you go to sports games or something and they throw fruit chocks in the crowd. That'd be like, incredible.
That's how you've got to start, I think.
Anyway, so on the topic of GAN, have you had a favorite cube over all time? Maybe it wasn't a GAN cube. Is there any cube that you've used that was just great to you?
It's a good question. Nothing really stands out that much. I think I keep like a bunch of old 3x3s that I've like set records on or won big competitions with. I mean, the one, probably the one that was most, that helped me the most in terms of times, and it was just an instant like speed gain was probably the Diane Zanchi. Kind of since then, every cube you switch to, it's like, oh, this cube's nice, but it'll take me, a few weeks or a month to switch to it and really, really get used to it. Like, I can feel that it's nicer, but I might not get as good times as I am getting on my main. But like the Zanchi, when that was released, that was like instantly half a second faster, because it was just so good. And I mean, you don't get that anymore. You kind of get that a bit with big cubes, occasionally, I would say.
Yeah.
These days, what's the most recent one? I think the one that helped me a bit was YJ 4x4, MGC 4x4. That was kind of one that I switched to and was like immediately faster.
Interesting.
Slightly faster, I would say. But no, nothing else really stands out over time. Yeah.
Even the GAN 356 Air SM. I mean, when you got your 4.73, I think that was crazy. That was.
Sorry. Yeah, the magnets was obviously a big change. When magnets only kind of started. Yeah, they only got kind of started being used in cubes 2016 or so, and then only were in mass production 2017. So that was that was a big shift. It's easy to forget about that.
Yeah, and obviously that was the first time I really looked at GAN, and even Max Park at Worlds 2019, he still used like the GAN Air SM, even though the X and stuff came out. Like that cube held its own for a while.
Yeah, I think I was using the SM in 2017. I think it's the same. The kind of the thing these days is that like the new cubes are just so much like they're just marginally better, or it takes you a while to really get used to them, just because of how fast people turn and how fine tuned you really need to be. That a cube might help you in the long run, but it kind of takes a while to switch. But Matt, I can't even imagine what using a non-magnetic cube is like these days. Magnets were a massive shift. They're amazing.
I guess I'll just add a question. About your YouTube channel. When you were younger, you started posting videos on your YouTube channel a lot. When did you like gain some like a good following of like subscribers and stuff? Was it when you got a record and the video got a lot of views, or were you like quite well known before you got a record on YouTube?
I think I was relatively well known before I got the world record the first time. Just because I don't know, I was pretty active on like forums and in various like chat rooms, and posted a decent amount of YouTube videos, and so everyone kind of knew, what my times were at home, and that if I went to a competition, I had a good chance of breaking a record. And so imagine like something like these days where, if someone started posting, sub 5 averages all the time on a YouTube channel, like they'd get well known pretty quickly. It's kind of like that. But cubing was a lot smaller back then, so I don't know, it would have been a few thousand subscribers or something like that. But then only when it kind of started breaking the world records, and then when a lot of those videos kind of went viral as well, would get millions and millions of views, and so I don't know, that probably was a tailwind to that as well.
Yeah, wow. And you actually you were the most subscribed cubing channel on YouTube for a while.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I never really spent too much effort on YouTube. Like YouTube was just like the mechanism to, or the platform on which I could actually just show the speed cubing, and the competitions, which is my main focus. My focus is not YouTube. My focus was speed cubing and competitions and getting records, and so. You
still get like good viewers. Like if you get a good time, like you'll still get good viewers on your channel, and you're still like, I think you're top 3 most subscribed cubing channels now.
Yeah, I should post more stuff. But.
And King of Viewers, this guy from India, has like 800,000 subscribers now.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm glad that there's people who put much more effort into YouTube that have more subscribers than me.
But it would have been pretty cool to. The fact that you got that many subscribers from posting solves is just crazy. It really shows like how good you were at a cube at the time, like how like amazing as a cuber you were, and you still are. But wow. Did you ever like get like you got monetized on YouTube? Was that like an income for you, or did you had to work a job as well? Obviously.
Yeah, that was the income. So, through the end of high school. I don't know, when did I set up my YouTube channel? I set up my YouTube channel from the start, but I think it was only making like any kind of reasonable money probably by 2011, 2012, 2013. And so, instead of having to work at whatever it was, Subway or Nando's or something like that, like when I was in high school, I just worked for Google. Or actually, Google didn't own it back then. Worked for just YouTube.
Wow, that would have been pretty cool.
It was nice that but I think my mom and dad always just kind of said, Felix, you can't live from YouTube. Like you've got to
exactly.
I think my mom just wanted me to like go, I don't know. Go work at a fast food place or something just for the experience. But I was like, why? Why would I do that? Why would I do that when I can just make YouTube videos and make more money? Make more money than $10 an hour at Subway. So, like, I never understood.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of money to be made now on YouTube. Back then it was a lot easier to sort of grow if you stood out. Like, obviously, what made you stand out was like you was really fast at solving the cube. And it was easier then to grow the wave of YouTube because obviously YouTube now is very oversaturated and there's so many cubing channels now. It's very hard to make it out,
Yeah, I've not kept up with all of the latest YouTube channels, but yeah, back in the day, it was really, there were, kind of 5 to 10 big channels. The Red KBs and Me, Myself and Pi and Frost, and like everyone knew all the big channels.
Yeah.
Whereas these days,
I see some of them fall off. Like, not.
People get older and do other things. Like,
yeah, true.
Bad Mephisto was a big one as well. But yeah, like just the number of big cubing YouTubers was a lot smaller than what it is now.
Yeah, wow.
No, I think I'm all out.
Their audiences were also a lot smaller. So
yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Mitch, do you have
just
anything to add?
one more question.
Any more questions?
What do you do in your
would like
spare
to
time
say?
apart from cubing?
Well, yeah. Well, I've said everything I would like to say. Well,
Yeah,
all I
that's pretty
can say
good.
now is
Same.
Ooh,
Sure. In my spare time, lockdown. Yeah, yeah. So outside of cubing, so I mean, I don't really do a whole lot of cubing, or as much as I used to. I'm still active and involved, and when competitions open up, I'll be going. But so normally, like during the week, I work for. It's called the Australian Future Fund.
Yeah.
It's, I guess. I think of it as like government organization. Think of it as just like it's like a super fund or a pension fund, but it's Australia's money. And so I'm part of the team. I'm part of a team which invests, I guess, on behalf of the government. And so I work in an investment role. That's kind of day to day. Other hobbies. I mean, I play a bit of tennis, play a bit of golf, watch a lot of football.
Yeah,
Just spend time with family and friends.
I guess a lot of people
bit of
like
running,
that.
bit of exercise. Nothing. No
Cool.
huge
Now I'm
major
definitely out of
hobbies
questions.
outside of cubing, but plenty to keep me busy. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Well, all I have to say is, Felix, I'm really grateful that you were willing to come on. That honestly, it means a lot to us, and I'm really thankful that you could come on the show.
No worries at all. Thanks so much for having me. And
Thank you very much.
Like I said, I think I listened to a few of your podcasts before,
Thank you very much.
You do a great job. You well prepared. You keep it up. Definitely. Looking forward to listening to more episodes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to make more. And obviously there was a few YouTube podcasts on cubing about a year ago, but obviously most of them has like fallen out and stopped posting regularly.
We really appreciate it. And if
so
ever
I
you
feel
feel
it's
the
a great
sudden
time to
urge to
start
come back on
the
again,
podcast
just
with
let us
Mitch.
know, and we'll be very happy to have
Yeah,
you.
we're really fortunate to have someone like you on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No worries at all.
All right, thank you very much.
Felix, wow, I am so grateful, and Mitch is so grateful. I think all we can say is that we're so thankful that you managed to come on, make a time for us, and have a chat. I mean, you're such a great person, and it's just a credit to you that you really deserve to be known as the greatest speedcuber of all time, because not only by your speedcubing, but like the amount of power, the amount of influence you've had, and as a role model to so many cubers, it's just phenomenal. So that's a credit to you. So thank you so much. We're so grateful for that.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you guys listening at home really enjoyed that very insightful interview. Let us know who you want to hear on the podcast. I'd be very interested in that. Anyway, I think that we will leave it there. Thank you very much to all of you, each and every one of you, for listening to the podcast. As always, I really, really appreciate it. The support is just great, and it really keeps us going. We will be back
definitely
next month to the unknown listener who left that nice review. Don't worry. But yeah, everyone, have a great month. I hope you really enjoyed this episode, and happy cubing.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much.